So you have a folder. We call it NinGit. You can name it anything. But the assumption is that this folder, this particular folder, is your application. Is the application that you want to manage with Git. That's the assumption. So you right click on it and click on Git Bash here. After clicking on Git Bash here, it's going to open that folder for you. I think someone wants to join the class. Let's proceed. So this is the folder. I'm currently inside this folder. Next is I want to register with Git. Git has a lot of commands, like a lot of them. You need to clamp some of them. -, global. I will explain everything here. User.name, then your name. Git config -global user.name, then you put your name. What you are just doing here is this. Let's take it one after the other. All the commands that you are going to be writing in Git is going to start with Git. I come again. All the commands that you'll be writing will start with Git. So let's now look at other things here. Git config means you are telling Git that you want to do some configuration. I want to configure something. Ignore this for now and let's look at other things here. User.name. What I'm saying here is that I'm telling Git that the name, my name or my username, like my name, is Taye Abidakun. That's the essence of this command. We are telling Git config user.name. Then I'm telling Git that my name is Taye Abidakun. Now let's not discuss the meaning of this -global. You see, with this, okay, what you are doing here is that we are registering this user with Git, and this command here can actually be done inside any folder. Like, it's not necessarily inside this particular folder. I can do it inside any folder. So what this -global, what it does is that it's telling Git that this user that I'm creating should be available globally on this device. It should be available globally on this device. If, let's assume I didn't put this -global, what this is going to do is that it will create this user fine, but this user will only be available inside this folder that we have. That user is not going to be globally available on my device. It will only be available inside this folder. That means Git will only recognize that user when I'm inside this new Git folder, this folder that we have. But by saying -global, what I'm saying is that Git should recognize this user globally on my device. So I can use this user, like this user now can work anywhere on this device. Do we understand? Should I come again? Please,
yes, please.
Sir?
Please come again.
Okay, let's come again. Number one, Git is a version control system. We want to use Git to manage different versions of our application. Now, next is we want to see how to get started with Git. I assume that we've all installed Git on our device. So next thing is, after installation of Git, you want to register yourself with Git. Git does not recognize you. You need to first register with Git. To do that, to make it so easy to do, first, create a folder on your device. You can call it anything. This folder represents your application. Let's assume I'm building a school app. It's going to look like this. Let's say the name of my school is, let's say Medullary School. So I will call it Medullary School. So this is my application. I will come here, right click on it and say Git Bash here. Once I say Git Bash here, Git is going to take me straight into that folder. As you can see, I'm currently within that Medullary School folder. Any question to that part? Can we move on?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm currently inside that folder. But then, like I said, we are here to register the user. You are here to register yourself with Git. So next thing is, we want to discuss how to register yourself with Git. And in Git, you are going to be using a lot of commands. A lot. All your commands will start with Git. Git config. I want to do some configurations. Then let's first do this. User.name. Then you put your name. Let's say my name is Tolu Ajayi. What I'm saying is that I'm telling Git that I want to create a user, and the name of that user is Tolu Ajayi. Any question to this part?
No.
Okay, I think someone wants to join. Let me quickly allow the person in. So I'm saying what this is going to do is that it will tell Git that I'm creating a user, and the name of that user is Tolu Ajayi. Next thing is this user, this Tolu Ajayi, will only be available inside this Medley School folder. Meaning that if I create another project tomorrow, this Tolu Ajayi will not be available. Git will not recognize the person again. As it is now, this user will only be available inside the current directory. Do we understand?
Yeah.
So what we want to do is, we want to tell Git that make this user available globally on our device, on this particular device, so that inside any folder, Git will still recognize this user, Tolu Ajayi. So in order to do that, you now say git config hyphen global. Git config hyphen global. What this is now going to do is that it will instruct the Git that this user, Tolu Ajayi, should be made available globally on this device. So if I open another folder now, I can still use this same Tolu Ajayi to do a lot of things inside that folder. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you are done, you press enter. Next, I've only registered the name. I also need to register the email address of this user. Git config hyphen global user.email. Then you put your email address. Let's say toluajayi@gmail.com. So again, git config hyphen global user.email, then the email address. So Git will now attach this email address with this name. So, and again, this hyphen global is telling Git that this user should be available globally on your device. Any question?
I have a question, but I don't know if I should ask it now or later.
You can ask, sir.
So you created a new file and you right click and you got the git bash option. For me, there's no git bash option in my right click, despite installing the git.
Okay. Or Linux, or Apple.
Yeah, on Mac.
Or Mac. For Mac, we are going to discuss it after the class.
Okay,
For
no
Mac
problem,
OS.
sir.
But it's still the same command. But I think to open on Mac, I will check how to navigate through directories in Mac OS.
No problem.
Linux.
Thank you.
Let's move on. But again, it's still the same. You'll still be using the same command. If once you open directory, once you're able to open the directory, just open this command. Just write this command. It's still the same command. Now, next thing is that I want us to know that this command, and this command can actually be executed inside any folder. It can be done because what we are doing is that we are saying that this user should be global, Meaning that I could have done the same thing inside any other folder since this user is available globally on this device. Do you understand? This user,
Yeah.
since the user is made available globally, then it doesn't matter it doesn't matter the folder that I'm running this command in. Like currently, I'm running it inside this Mendeley school, but it doesn't matter. I could have run it anywhere else, and it will still work fine. Now, next is this. You want to tell Git that Git should manage this particular folder. Git is not going to automatically manage all folders on your device. No, it's not going to happen. You need to specifically tell Git to manage some folders. So I want to tell Git to manage this particular folder that I am in. This command is not to tell Git to manage it. This is just to create a user that will be available globally on your device, and we can do this anywhere else. But what we want to do now, the next command that we're about to run, is to tell Git that you see this folder that we are in, you are to look into that folder, you are to manage into this folder and look at what happens within that folder. Do we get it?
Yeah.
Okay, so I will open the folder and show you something. You can see this folder is empty. There's nothing within this folder. Nothing. Now, I will now run the command and you will notice something. Let me close this. I don't think I'm using this. Okay. So you're going to say git init. Git init is telling you that you should initialize Git. This init stands for initialize. You want to initialize Git inside this folder. I'm telling you that Git, I want you to manage what happens within this folder. So once I press enter, Git has been initialized. Do you notice something like main? At your own end, you may see whether either main or master, either of the two. It may be master, it may be main, but it's fine, whichever one it is. Either main or master. Once you run git init, it's going to change this to main. If I open that folder now, you will see an hidden folder. This is an hidden folder. If you're on Windows, you can hide this hidden folder. I think by default, this folder is hidden. You won't even see it. So that Windows doesn't want a situation whereby you will mistakenly delete it. So that's why it's hidden by default. You may not see it, but this is what you're going to see. You will see that this will change to main or master. But let's say if yours is not, if yours is hidden, if it's not visible, what you can do to make it visible is you come to view, then you come to options here. Then you come to view again. You now select the show hidden files, folders and drives. You select it and you press OK. If I click on don't show, it's going to hide it. It's no longer visible. If I want to view it again, so it's visible again. Well, I think it's better you make it hidden so that you won't delete it mistakenly. I think it's fine. But just know that it's going to create an hidden folder inside your application. So let's discuss what this folder is going to do. Don't worry, you won't have any reason to open the folder. What happens is when you save a version with Git will store it inside this hidden folder. If you save another version, again, it will store it inside this hidden folder. And not like that. So whenever you want to switch to a previous version, Git will just go to this folder and fetch it for you. Do you understand what you're doing? What is going on?
Not that last bit.
Okay, let's go again. This is an hidden folder inside your project. So remember I said this is like our projects. Let's say I want to create an application for Mendeley School. So inside this folder, I will execute this command git init, and later I run the command, it's going to give us this main and create an hidden folder for us. By default, this folder is hidden. If anything happens to this folder, Git will no longer monitor your application. It's not going to. So That's why this folder is hidden by default, but you can make it visible if you want to. And remember, I explained to us that Git is a version control system. That is, it controls different versions of our application. Let's assume I release version 1 of my application. A week later, I release version 2. Then a week later again, I release another version, making version 3. If I want to switch my application back to the version 1, all I need to do is just to write a single command, and Git will switch my whole application back to version 1. If I want to switch my application back to version 2, all I need to do is just to write a single command, and Git will restore my application back to version 2. So this is possible because Git is going to be saving these versions inside this hidden folder. So meaning that if I delete this hidden folder, I've deleted all those versions. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Okay, that's why this folder is hidden
Yeah.
by default. Thank you, sis. It's hidden by so that you won't delete it mistakenly, because if I can delete it, I've deleted all the versions with Git. Git will no longer know how to undo things again. So let's continue. So currently I'm inside the main directory, main branch. I will explain the meaning of this main as we proceed. Like I said, yours might be master or main. Either of the two is fine. Let's move on. Next is, I want to save different files inside this folder, this medullary script. I want to save different files. So let's save the first file. Okay, this is the folder. So I'll create the index.html. So I've created the first file. I want to write some code on say landing page. Then inside this, I will have a header. Then I will have a navigation link. Inside my navigation link, I can have anchor tags. Then I can say index.html then copy, paste, let me put this in. So I will create the remaining two files, about.html and the contact.html. Let's create the remaining two files together. So just copy everything here and bring it here and call this about page. Then okay, so in the application we have three files: the index.html, the about.html, and the contact.html. Let me remove this. Next is, we now want to add content to this page. So let's say this being the landing page. Inside the main, I can create a paragraph. You are welcome to Modular School, where you learn about designs. So we have this in our landing page. Let's go to about.html So here we have this. I can just put this. This is the about us page. Done. Pew. You can which us okay, so we have these 3 pages. Are we still together?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me check if nobody is working. Nobody. Okay. So we have these 3 pages. This is the landing page. This is the about page. And this is the contacts page. By running git init, we've already created an hidden folder, and git will now start monitoring things going on in this folder. Next is that you want to, when storing things with git, you are going to be storing it batch by batch. Each batch represents a version. Again, you are not going to be storing things file by file. No, you are going to be storing things batch by batch. Like this is the first batch, this is the second batch, this is the third batch, and so on. So we're going to be storing things batch by batch, not file by file. In a single batch, you can have as many files as possible. So all of that, let's say I have 10 files now in a batch, all of that represents a version. Then if I can add more files and increase it, and it represents another version. Do we understand? Show you what.
Yeah.
Okay. So next is, we want to tell Git to manage these 2 files, this and the contact us. We only want to tell Git to manage just 2 of these 3 files. Check. We want to save this and this as one batch, index.html and the contact.html. We want to commit these 2 files into the hands of Git. Once you commit things into the hands of Git, Git will now start looking over it and ensure that nothing happens to those files. So let's do that together. One way I explain this is I use the concept of sacrifice to explain it. Imagine you want to offer a sacrifice to Git. So what you want to do is you are going to arrange those things in a tray, like this, T-R-A-Y. You are going to arrange those things in a tray, then hand it over to Git as one batch, telling it that Git, I'm giving you this batch and you are to monitor it for me. So the first thing is you need to first arrange all those things inside the tray. Then you will now hand over the tray to Git as one batch. So let's see how to arrange things in a tray. In Git, we don't call it tray, we call it staging area. Staging area. So once you look at how to place things in the staging area, you can place as many files as possible in this staging area. Then you will now tell Git to take over everything in that staging area. So you say git add, then we want to add this index.html file. Index.html. So I've added one file. I want to add the about us also, the about page. Git add about.html. So now I have 2 items in the staging area in that tray. Any question to this point?
Are you able to do this because those files are in the same folder with Git?
Yes, they are inside this folder, and I'm currently inside this folder also in my Git.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, sir. So git add the name of the file. So we have two files. Next is we want to tell Git to take over everything in this staging area and save it as one batch. So we're going to run this command. Git, like I said, Git has a lot of commands, and in Git, what you are doing is you are just writing commands. Git commit -m. This -m stands for message. Let me explain why it is necessary. Like I said, we are going to be saving things batch by batch, and for now, we want these two files to represent one batch. Now, after saving things with Git, since you are not saving things file by file, you are saving things batch by batch. How do you now know the right batch to retrieve from Git? How do you know the right batch to retrieve? It is this message, whatever message you put here. This -m stands for message. Whatever message you put here will be saved with that batch, so that when it's time to retrieve it, Git will show you this message, and you will be able to know that, oh, this is what I saved in this particular batch, or this is what I did in this particular batch. So with that, it becomes easier to retrieve. This message is very important. In fact, it is compulsory. It is. You need to put the message -m, or you write it in full -, message. It's fine. Whether you put -m or -, message, I think I'll be using this anyway. I'll be using this -m, then my commit message. This message should be a description of what is going on here, of what you are doing here, so that once you see the message, you should easily know what you did inside that batch, or what that batch stands for. Please make the message to be as descriptive as possible, so that just by seeing this message, you know what you did there. Any question? So I can just say index.html and about.html files saved. So I've saved one batch with Git. I've saved one batch. Let's take it all over again. I will create a new folder. I will call it second app. I will use Git to manage the second app. All I need to do, right click and click on Git bash here. Now this time around, you don't need to run git config again. That's because by running it the first time, since you set it as global, that user is automatically available here. So you don't need to run git config again. In a new application now, you don't need to run, except if you want to get another user. But if you are not getting another user, you don't need to run git config. That user is automatically available here. So next is you just start with git init. Git is now available inside this place. If I open that second app now, I'll see it. Next is I can create files and commit those files with Git. So I'll create files now, and I'll save it inside that place. Second app. Then I can call this the templates.html. This is the template page. Then let's save another file again. I'll call this maybe this.html. Then this page, website is active. Moment. So we have these two files, but I only want to save this with Git, not this. So I'll just come here and say git add templates.html, then git commit -n templates page added. Let's say I can just have this. So we've saved that as one batch. Any question?
Sorry, I have a question.
Okay, man.
And the question is, why do we have to open that second app? Second file,
just
or
like a
folder?
recap of what we've done, so that we can just see how to go about it. Let's assume you created another app, because for each application, let's say, okay, good, I gave you an assignment on to make the dot board. I gave you another assignment to, I think, to write a composition about yourself. And then I think I also gave one about your school. Now that makes it 3 different applications. In each of them, you will run git init. Just see them as separate. This, in each of them, you need to run this command first. Then you add those files. Only recapping. This is like a recap, so that you will understand it the more. The reason for doing all of this is for you to understand it the more. If I have another application again, I will do the same thing again. I'll first run git init, then I will add the files, and I will run git commit to save those things with git. Do you understand me?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Let's move on. So now, let's close the second one now. I only use this to serve as something like a revision. So I will close this and go back to the first one. We are still inside the medullary school. Next, we want to run a command called git status. Git status. What this status is going to do is it's going to tell you the status of your application. It's going to tell you the committed files, 1, those files that are yet to be committed, 2, and those files that have been modified. We are coming there. The committed files, the files that are yet to be committed, and those files that have been modified. You know, we've committed the index.html and the about.html, but we are yet to commit the contacts.html. We didn't commit this. So if we run git status now, Git is telling us that this contact.html has not been committed. It is untracked. What does that mean? What Git is just trying to tell us is, if anything happens to this file, there's nothing I can do for you. I can't give it back to you. Do we understand? You know, Git is to manage our application. Okay. So what this is just telling us is, if anything happens to this contact.html, sorry, there's nothing I can do to it because you do not save it with me. You are here to save it with me, so I don't have an idea of what is happening inside this contact.html. Let's look at modified and see how that works. So I'll come to this about.html and I will add some new codes. So let's say I have a form here, and inside this form I'm getting input text, and let's say let's put a placeholder, first name. So I have an input, then text, placeholder this. Now if I don't git status again, let's run it again. Git status. Good. Git is telling you that the index.html file has been modified. What this modified means is that Git, what it's telling us is that I have a version. Git is telling you that it has a version of index.html with it. Like there's a version of index.html saved with Git, but it is not the same as the most recent version. Meaning that after I saved it with Git, Git is telling me that I have modified this form after saving it with Git. This is the essence of the modified. Git is telling us that, well, I have a version of index.html with me, but the version with me is not the recent version. You've modified this after saving it with me. Do we understand?
Yeah.
Okay. The reason Git is giving this warning is this. If anything happens to this file now, Git can give us the last version, but it can't give us these new codes. It can't. If anything happens, let's say this file just got deleted or anything happens now, Git is telling us that, see, although I have a version with me, I can only give you the old version. I can't give you the new version. So if you want me to be able to give you the new version, you also need to save this one again with me. It has been modified, but I don't have the most recent version. That's what Git is telling us. So that's the essence of this. Modify. This untagged means in fact I don't even have any version of this with me. If I want to save the new version now, I can save it again as one batch. I can say git add index.html git commit -m form added to the index.html file. So I've saved it now. So if I run git status again now, we only have this contact.html because I've saved this index.html with Git. Any
Question, sir.
Yes, sir.
So as you've done this now, can you still access the first version?
Yes, sir. We are going to, as time goes on, we see how to access those versions.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir. You're welcome. In fact, that's the essence of this. If we can't access the versions, then all this we are doing is just waste of time. That's the essence of it, to be able to switch back to the previous version whenever you want to. In case anything goes wrong, you can switch back to the previous versions. Next, I want to create new files again inside the same folder. But this time around, I will create a CSS file. I can call it index.css. So this is a CSS file. Then I will create a Python file. I'll call it maybe test.py. So I have a CSS file, a new file called index.css, and I have a new file called test.py. If I run git status, Git will tell me that 3 files are untagged. The 3 files are this contact.html, this index.css, and this test.py. They are the 3 files that are untagged. That is, Git does not know anything going on within those 3 files. Git doesn't know. So I can now say Git, if I run git status, this is it. It's telling me that these 3 files. It doesn't understand what is going on inside the 3. I can now say, let's say I want to save all CSS files, because there may be an instance whereby I can have up to, let's say, 100 CSS files in my application. 100. Will I be adding them one after the other? Git add, I will add the first one. Git add, I will add the second one. Git add. No, you are not going to be doing that. You can just write a command that will add all the files for you at once, instead of adding them one after the other. Just like the other time, when they add, we have index.html, contact.html, and about.html. Let's assume we want to add all the HTML files at once, instead of adding them one after the other. There's a command to do that, and that's the next thing we want to look at. That command is this. You say git add, then you put asterisk, which is like multiplication sign, star. Then you now put the extension. If it's HTML, you put .html. If it is CSS, you put .css. So what it's going to do is, you are telling it to add everything. This star stands for everything. Add everything that ends with .html. I come again. This star, git add asterisk.css, or this. What this is saying is you are telling Git to add anything that ends with .css, anything that has an extension of CSS. Meaning that if I run this command now, this index.css will be added automatically because it ends with .css. Then I can commit it. Git commit -m all CSS files added. So I've added this index.css. If I have other files that also ends with .css, then it will be, they will automatically be added. So be sure that this file was actually added. I will run the git status again so that you see it. Git status. So as you can see, the index.css is no longer here because it has been added. Any question? Can we proceed?
No. Yeah.
Okay. Next is, I want to add all the files this time around, not even a file of a particular extension. I want to add all files, all of them together. So to do that, I will say git add full stop. This full stop is going to add all the files there, all of them, excluding none. Git add all. So all files have been added. I can now commit it. Git commit -m all files added. So I've added all the files. Any question?
No, sir.
A question. You said add dot.
You said
Add dot.
git add,
My
yes,
question is, you
dot.
said add dot.
Dot, yes, full stop. Git add full stop.
Okay. My question is, if question,
Yes.
if I type add asterisk dot asterisk, will it work?
You said
If I say git add asterisk dot asterisk, will it work?
what this is going to do is git, if you run this command, git add asterisk dot asterisk. What you are just saying is you are telling Git to add everything that ends with asterisk, and I doubt if any file name will end with asterisk. Do you get it, sir?
Okay, I get it. But what I was trying to do in that command was, since asterisk works for all files, I was trying to do all files, all extensions.
Okay, this is going to do
That's
that
what
for
I
you.
think. Okay, but
This dot is going to do that for you. It's going to add all files, irrespective of the extension. This will do that for you. Can we move on?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
we've been able to add all files. Next is we want to retrieve all the files, and that's what we're going to look at in our next class. That's what we're going to do in our next class. But then, please, before the next class, register on this website, github.com. Register on this website before the next class, github.com. We may not even get there in our next class, but we will need it in our third class. Thank you very much. Let's have a quick revision of everything we've done so far today. Then we call it a day. Revision. Git is a version control system. It is used to manage different versions of our application. At this stage, we are going to look at how to use Git to manage different versions of the application, one, and also we are going to look at how to use Git to host your pages, your website, so that you can easily send the link to someone. That's what we are going to do with this website that asks us to register with. And also we are going to see how to save our projects on GitHub also on this same website. Those are those things we are going to be doing. For a start, we are starting with Git remote. Oh, sorry, Git local. Sorry, you are starting with Git local. Git local, it's going to it's going to help you to manage Git locally on your device. On all we are doing, on all we've done today, is just local to this device. It's only saved on this my laptop, meaning that if this laptop should crash tomorrow, in fact all the files saved with Git on it, they are gone, because everything we are doing, or everything I've done so far tonight, it's only being saved on my device, on this device. If I should delete this file, it's fine, I can retrieve it back. But if the system should crash such that this folder, this hidden folder, leaves my system, then all those changes are gone, all of them. This folder, in fact, if I delete this folder now, everything I've saved with Git is gone. So we are starting with Git local. Then as time goes on, we are going to move to Git remote. Git remote will help you to push all your projects online and also to host your application on GitHub. Now, to start with, you need to first register with Git. Number one, I sent a link to us to install Git. After the installation, you want to register with Git. To register with Git, you're going to use this command. Git, let me clear this. Oh, sorry. Okay, clear. So, run git config -- global user.name, then you put your name, you press enter. Then when you are done, you enter your email address, you put your email address, you press enter. So this global will make this user available globally on our device. And like I said earlier, this command is just one time thing. You don't need to keep running it again. You only run this the first time for the first project you are doing. After then, you don't need to run it again. You are already available globally on your device. Except if you don't add this global. If you don't add this global, you need to do it for each project. But once this global is there, you don't need to do it for each project. Next is you run git init. This git init will initialize Git inside this folder. And I said instantly you will see something like main or master, either of the two. So once you run git init, you will see this, and also it will create an hidden folder like this for you. Next, you want to add files. You are going to run git add, then the name of the file name. You add the name, of course, with the extension. So you add it. After adding, you can add as many files as possible. Add the first one, second one, third one. When you are done adding the files, you run git commit. Then you add your commit message. The commit message should be as descriptive as possible. So then I also told us that if you want to add all the files of a particular extension, you use git add then the extension. So it's going to add all the files with this extension, whatever extension you put here. Then if you want to add all the files irrespective of the extension, you put git add full stop. This will add all the files. And when you are done adding the files, don't forget to commit. Then you commit them. Usually you commit, then your files will be saved with Git as a batch. Then in our next class, we're going to see how to get these folders back from Git. All these things we've saved so far, we want to see how to get that back from Git. Any question?
I have a question.
Okay, sir.
Hello?
Hello, sir. I can hear you, sir.
My question is, I have two questions. One, can I run this Git without being online and finish my program?
With that,
connecting online, can I run Git app in my laptop without being online?
yes.
And finish the code. Must I be
Everything we are
online
doing,
to use Git?
yes, you don't need internet. Everything we've done so far does not need internet. Everything we've done so far does not need internet. Everything we are doing is that's why I call it local Git. This is local Git. As time goes on, we move it from local to online. But aside the installation, installing it on your device that I talked about in our last class, aside that, you don't need internet for anything.
Okay. My second question. My second question. Can I run this Git? Is it possible on phone? Can I have the laptop?
Okay.
Is there a phone version?
Look at something. In fact, there's something we call Git GUI. That one does not even need command. If you run Git GUI here, this is Git GUI. This will open something that is similar to MS Word, and it's going to be drag and drop. Whatever file you want to save with Git, you just drag it. That one is very, very easy to use, and I think if you are using phone, I don't know if there is phone version anyway. I don't know. But if you are using phone, I think you can opt in for this Git GUI. You can check online how to use Git GUI on phone. This Git GUI makes it easy. You don't even need to write all these codes. But the disadvantage of the Git GUI is that you can't do very sophisticated things using Git GUI. But with what you are doing now, with the Git commands that we are writing, using Git bash, you can do a lot of things, like a lot that you can't even do using Git GUI. And I think this Git bash makes you powerful. And if they are employing you, of course, they are expecting you to be. If anybody is like recruiting you to work with him or her or with the company on any project, they expect you that you should be able to use Git codes, this Git bash like this, and not just Git GUI. The GUI is drag and drop. You just drag it. If I want to save it, I just drag it there. When I'm done, if I want to remove it, I remove it. It's very easy to remove. But with this one, this command is a bit complex, and that's why I'm teaching us this. But the mobile version, if you go online, I believe there should be mobile version, but that would be the GUI most likely. Most likely, it would be the GUI, so that you just do drag and drop.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome, sir. Okay, any other question?
I would appreciate if you're able to find out how to use this on my laptop.
Okay, alright, sir. I'll check it out.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir. Alright. Thank you very much. Thanks to everybody.